Did you know that the first Dragon roller coaster is in Playland Park, New York? Hi, I'm the Dragon Queen.
Hit that like, share, subscribe.
Today we're talking about 11/22/63. If you're an American, you know exactly what day that is. It's the day Kennedy died. Well, Stephen King apparently wrote a book about it, so there's a TV miniseries about it. In this series, which stars James Franco, he travels back in time. Diner, the back closet, to go to a specific time, 60, which is 3 years before Kennedy gets killed. Al, his longtime friend, convinces him after a couple trips back in time to see if Oswald was indeed the shooter of Kennedy. If you know all about Kennedy, you know about all the conspiracy theories and whatnot that linger about to this day. Was Oswald the only shooter? Was there another shooter? Were other people involved? How the FBI screwed up so bad? It's a lot of conspiracy theories. This one surrounds James Franco's character, Jake, who uses money that Al gave him from the 1960s to survive for 3 years. Build up, try to find out if Oswald was indeed the shooter or not. They have this theory that he attempted to kill this other guy earlier. So they wanted to see if they see Oswald trying to kill this other dude, that a striker or whatever, I forget his name, then he's probably the shooter for Kennedy. There's a catch to all of this. Every time Franco tries to do something, fights back. He goes, in order to survive, he also has a sports book of who won what. So he's making crazy bets too while this is all going on. It gets him in trouble, basically. But also he takes a job as a teacher in this place called Jody to survive, where he meets a woman named Sadie. And he also wants to try and help this other guy who is a part of his class in real time. This is like 2016. He's an actual teacher. It's all kinds of complicated. Because according to the guy who was in his class in 2016, dad killed everybody in his family except for him when he was a kid. So the first thing James Franco's character does is save the family. Kill the dad, save the family. That's where more complications arise. He meets another guy named Bill who decides to believe him that he's from the future. And they try to spy on Oswald by taking an apartment below Oswald's apartment, basically. And that's where he picks up the teaching job. That's where he meets up the girl. It becomes a whole convoluted story. But it works. You see Bill listening in on Oswald while Jake goes to teach to make money so that they don't use the betting. But Bill ends up betting behind Jake's back. Of course, a lot of money, so people are going to notice. And you try to catch Oswald in the act of, planning with this other CIA guy, George, about the Kennedy assassination and stuff like that. It's enjoyable to watch all this play out. It's like 8 episodes, I think. It's a very limited miniseries. But through this whole thing and everything plays out, and of course the past fights back against him, everything he does to try to change the past. Like, he literally ends up getting jumped by the people who he's placed the bets against. Or Bill, his friend, has played the bets against. He ends up getting beaten up and loses his memory. So he has no idea. Well, this is all before he's supposed to save Kennedy. So he's trying to remember what happened, who he was, etc. He doesn't know anything. He hasn't told the girl anything. He's trying to keep her safe. And then you find his friend. He had sent his friend to the insane asylum, which at the time, insane asylums are bad. They're bad news. He had sent him to the insane asylum because he thought he was going to be the second shooter, because Bill decided to get involved with Oswald even though Jake had told him not to. I mean, I could see where he was coming from, but to send him to an insane asylum, really? You would think he would know better, especially given the time. But a lot of things unravel. Past is fighting against Jake. Bill ends up dying. Not in a conventional sense either. So him and Sadie try to make a plan after Bill is buried to, well, he still doesn't remember everything, so they actually find Oswald, and then Jake remembers what he's supposed to be doing. So they try to make a plan to park close to where Oswald went, the book depository, so that they could get up the stairs before the second shot goes off to stop Oswald. You see the past fighting against him when this starts happening. Car won't start. There's massive crowds, so you can't get anywhere. You start seeing people that aren't there, or it's a laundry list of things that are happening here. So they do eventually get up there, and they do eventually stop Oswald from firing the second shot. But again, the past fighting against them. The door conveniently slams shut. During the squabble, the fight, the girl takes off. trying to hide and get away from the fighting that's going on while Jake and Oswald are fighting over the gun. And then he ends up shooting Oswald. And of course, during all of this, somehow the Sadie gets shot too. So she dies. The cops come and arrest him. They want to plant the evidence against him because they know he's been using an alias and all that. And of course, he knows what happened during this time, how they conveniently burned Oswald's letter and all this stuff and used it against the FBI or CIA or stuff like that because they want to pin it on him. Well, that ends up backfiring because John F. Kennedy calls the police office where Jake is being held and thanks him for saving his life. And Mrs. Kennedy also thanks him for saving his life. So everything gets washed under the rug, and no one is pinned for a murder and all that. But of course, now Jake is by himself, and he goes back to the future, and the future is nothing like he remembers, because now it looks like it's been bombed, it's been trashed. There are people on the street trying to rob other people or assault other people. And then he finds the student that he had taught in his timeline. And he finds out what happened. And he tells him, like, they got sent to these JFK camps where they got his mom contracted the flu, his brother enlisted, and his sister ran off or whatever. Or he ran off, and it was like, this is what happened when he messed with time. So Jake is determined to fix it by going back in time again. Because when you go back in time, it resets. That's the way this world works. So he goes back to the Al's Diner, what almost gets mugged on the way back because of the current events. And he wants to just live with Sadie the entire time. And of course, through all this, there's another guy who's like stuck in the timeline. I'm not sure. But you never learn his name. And he tells him he's in his own loop. Because this guy apparently is in his own loop, where he was trying to save his daughter from drowning. And he tells Jake, you're in your own loop because you're trying to save Sadie from dying. So Jake has to come to the realization that he can't do what he wants to do. He can't mess with the timeline. Because if he messes with the timeline, no matter what he does, the girl he loves is going to die. So he has to make the ultimate sacrifice. Lets her go. Travels back to the future, ends up back in his timeline, and he goes back to teaching. He's depressed during this whole time. And finally he looks up where she is and goes to this recognition where she was like teacher of the year, stuff like librarian of the year. I was completely moved by the speech that she gave. This was an experience, Great job here for 8 episodes. I do have a minor complaint about this series because when he comes back to his normal timeline the second time after not staying there with Sadie and all that, it's like, where the heck did Al go? He just like mysteriously vanishes. Where the hell is he? I'm confused. So, unless they're implying that Al was Jake all the time, it's just a little puzzling to me because that's not really explained. He just like disappears. So I think overall, I have to give this series a 9 out of 10. You love conspiracy theories. You love, a lot of stuff Stephen King wrote was confusing as hell and usually translated doesn't do too hot. This is one where you might enjoy it. I enjoyed the action. I enjoyed watching the twists, the turns, watching the past kick back, fight back against them. Stuff to change the past. So it's quite enjoyable. I still want to go for the night because I don't have to work tomorrow. Happy about that. At least right now, anyway. We're gonna finish, hopefully, Record of Ragnarok. If not, I'll have something else watched by next week. Updates. Tomorrow, they are supposed to finally fix the fence, fix the vent, and then see what they need to fix the gate. 10 months, 4 months of legal war. Hopefully this war will be over soon. I want to be done. Before it hits the 1 year mark, I want to be done. This has been a drain on me and my husband. But I could be like the other people down the street. They still aren't in their homes. They're just now getting some repairs done. It's crazy. It's insane. Nobody should have to deal with this. Nobody. Fighting insurance is not fun. Absolutely not. You pay all that money for coverage they're supposed to cover, but they don't want to cover it. But you're required to have it as long as you're paying on your house. It's dumb. Dumbest scam ever. Anyway, hopefully I'll see you next time.